This Week in Richmond is made possible in part by Dignity Memorial, caring for our communities with a network of funeral homes and cemeteries in Virginia and throughout North America. More information about Dignity Memorial's providers is online at dignitymemorial.com.
Alpha Natural Resources. Consistent with its running right process, Alpha is an energy company committed to being a leader in mine safety and an environmental steward. We fuel progress around the world. More information at alphanr.com.
Haley Buick GMC, the place for a new Verano or Terrain Denali, on Midlothian Turnpike in Richmond and online at haleybuickgmc.com. Taking it to the streets and helping our community. Intelligent Illuminations. We make streetlights smart and give you control, providing secure point-to-point wireless solutions for roadway and area lighting, helping you manage, monitor, and control your streetlights. More information at ilooms.com. The Virginia Chamber of Commerce, the voice of the Virginia business community, working in legislative, regulatory, and political arenas to promote the free enterprise system. Information at vachamber.com.
It's amazing what my students with special needs can accomplish. Their pride is priceless. That's why I teach.
Brought to you by the Virginia Education Association, because a good education is good for everybody.
Additional support is provided by these sponsors. And by the members of Virginia's public television stations. Thank you.
Welcome to This Week in Richmond, and a very special welcome to Senator Bill Stanley. Thank you so much for being on This Week in Richmond. We'll let our viewers know that we're having this conversation about a week before the session ends.
That's right.
So there's still some more time, but our viewers will be seeing this, some of them, as the session has ended, because I'm sure it's going to end on time.
Let's hope so.
Yes. So what are some of the issues that you'd like to tell them about that you've been working on, your colleagues been working on, and matters that have been of importance during the session?
Well, I think we first have to look at the budget. And when we leave here, unlike last year, we were able to put together a budget that was balanced, as of course is required. But also we did not cut funding or spending to our K through 12 programs. We kept the funding levels pretty steady. And we were able to help in certain other areas. A couple budget amendments that I put in. One, hopefully, that will stay is reversion accounts, where we take money from our localities that they generate from their tax revenues, and we actually have them pay it to the state. We need to stop that. That's in the budget. So hopefully that reversion will be about $30 to $36 million that the localities will keep. The other is increasing funding to community health centers and our free clinics. We need to make sure that in the safety net we're taking care of the people that really need it, and that they're getting quality health care. So those were a couple of the issues. But I think the budget's one of them. We've got some pretty exciting pieces of legislation that are going through the chamber right now, and by the time this airs, probably will be on the governor's desk for signature. A couple of my bills. The Right to Try bill, which allows those persons who are terminally ill to try medications that have gone through phase 1 of FDA trials but have not yet been approved by the FDA, giving them the right to try to save their own lives. So I think that's a great piece of legislation. Worked on it with Margaret Ranson, and we've come pretty far with that, and we're very excited about it as well.
You know, I failed to, as I introduced you, to tell the viewers that you represent portions or all of about 7 counties and a couple of cities down in the South Side.
And a little bit of North Carolina, too.
Yeah, tell our viewers who are not from Southside Virginia the areas that you do represent.
Okay. West, it's Galax, Carroll County, Patrick County, Henry County, Franklin County, City of Martinsville, Pittsylvania County portion of. Most of Danville City, and Halifax and South Boston.
So see that stretching across South Side.
Right, absolutely right, and I think a little bit of where Andy Taylor is the sheriff as well. That's in North Carolina. They made a little mistake with the pen there when they were redrawing that district, but it's a very big district. Our populations are less intense than, say, Northern Virginia, so in order to capture 210,000 people, that can take up a lot of territory.
You know, in addition to the important legislation that you all work on, you also have important recognitions of people, and just recently you had the opportunity to recognize some people who are very outstanding Virginians, and more people need to know about that family. If you would, take a couple of minutes and tell them about the story.
Okay. In Southside, of course, you know, our pride is still there, but a lot of our jobs have gone away. But there is a man who is a real hero to all of us, and was just inducted to the NASCAR Hall of Fame this year in 2015. His name was Wendell Scott. He was the Jackie Robinson of NASCAR. He broke through the color barrier in stock car racing, and you know it's different with Wendell Scott because that color barrier was in the Dixie South. And so, unlike Brooklyn, where Jackie broke in, Wendell was a race car driver, par excellence, superb, and won some races and was denied those trophies and that recognition for so long, but he persevered. And with determination and believing that words like can't and never are not in his vocabulary, he succeeded in spite of the obstacles in front of him. It's a great American story, and I'm proud to be friends with his family. So we had a center aisle presentation memorializing his life as a great Virginia hero, Danville native, but also memorializing and honoring what his family has done in the legacy that he left them. You know, here was an auto mechanic who drove a race car but managed to put all 6 of his children through college. They're all mostly teachers. And then they keep his legacy alive with the Wendell Scott Foundation run by his grandson Warwick. And what they do is they actually have a foundation which mentors young people who are in the underserved and underprivileged areas, the at-risk youth, expose them to STEM education, get them excited about life and what their dreams can be, and show them that those dreams can be achieved in the same way that Wendell Scott epitomizes that through perseverance, determination, and drive.
You know, for people who don't know the story, you've given them a great thumbnail sketch. They need to read about that, to learn more about it. And I think it's the nice thing about it is that those, every day in the Senate, it's recorded and it's available. And I believe that was probably February 19th or something when that occurred.
Right.
And that people ought to see that, school children ought to see that.
It's a great story for anyone who wants to achieve the American dream. He proved it can happen. No matter when people say, you know, he couldn't do it, he did it. And to know the family and to see in them his spirit and that determination, I think is a story for us all. And certainly a story for Southside Virginia that, you know, we don't need a handout down there, we just need a hand sometimes. We used to lead Virginia and be the economic driver with textiles, manufacturing, and tobacco. And when those jobs went away with NAFTA and CAFTA, our spirit didn't, our pride didn't. And so that's still there, and I think Wendell Scott and his memory and his legacy embody that.
Let me ask you about another bill. It wasn't one of yours, but I think that it's important to your region, the Tobacco Commission and the efforts they give to help revitalize Southside and some portions of Southwest Virginia too. Is that, from your perspective, is that something good that's happened in this session that will help you all in your region?
Well, the Tobacco Commission has been very instrumental in bringing jobs back to our region, and certainly taking care of our tobacco families and the growers that have seen their crops go away due to regulation from the federal government. What we did in the bill that has passed through the House and Senate now is probably on the governor's desk by the time this airs, is really reform that commission to make sure that we're making sure that every dollar counts and every dollar goes to what we're hoping it for. The Tobacco Commission has not been perfect. I serve on it. We have had some real hits. We've had some singles and some doubles and some home runs, and we've had some strikeouts. And what we want to make sure is that it's a collaborative effort between the commission and the community and the corporation that we're trying to entice to bring to Southside Virginia and employ our people. So it's a good piece of legislation. Things always should be reformed. They're never perfect when government makes them, and we can always make them better.
What about other efforts in economic development in your region? I know that's been very important to you and to everyone who serves in that part of the Commonwealth, as well as other areas too. How is that going to try to attract more industry, more business there?
Well, I think we realize that it's a marathon and not a sprint in the economic recovery in Southside and Southwest. So what we've been really focusing on is workforce training, That's one of the main things that we focus on, because we know we need to grow that workforce and we need to start at the K through 12 level. Right now what we're doing is educating our children. It costs about $10,000 a year. It's about $130,000 from a K through 12 education for one child. And when that child graduates, they have to leave the area because the jobs aren't there. That's a great investment for us, but that's our tax dollars going to benefit some other region. So we know that if we can train a workforce, corporations are going to come, they're going to be there, they're going to want to put down roots and stay because they know we're putting out there a great workforce. The other thing, which I think is very exciting, is the Interstate 73 project. I'm the chairman of a subcommittee which is developing a strategy on how to build I-73. I-73 would be from the Carolina border all the way through Roanoke Valley to West Virginia, and it would expose Southside Virginia to 3 deep water ports in South Carolina and North Carolina and Georgia. On top of that, the studies have shown that if we can build that interstate, it will create in that region 43,000 sustainable, well-paying jobs. That's not even including the jobs that will come from companies that want to be there on top of that. So that's we talk about jobs programs. That's a jobs program. So now I put in a bill to create an interstate compact between West Virginia, North Carolina, Virginia, and South Carolina, where we all can join together as sister states to go to the federal government and develop a strategy for building this highway from the port in South Carolina all the way up to the Canadian border through Michigan.
So do you have some good cooperation from those other states that want to participate with you?
Absolutely. So we've not made a priority of I-73 until now. And now West Virginia is excited about it. North Carolina has probably done the most construction of I-73, but they kind of stopped before they got to the Virginia border because until now we didn't show a dedication to the process. But now all of those states are excited. We're all ready to work together. We're all ready to lobby the federal government. And I think you're going to see this road, which people in my area have always said, we need I-73, but it won't be built in my lifetime. We're going to see that built in our lifetime. I promise you that.
Oh, that is an exciting opportunity through that entire region.
It is.
That is. So before our time slips away, something else that you wanted to tell our viewers, you communicate with your constituents, but folks around the state want to hear some other ideas that you have.
Well, I think a lot of the ideas that I've been focusing on this year is reforming health care. We have chosen not to expand Medicaid in my area. That has an effect. And what we have to understand is that Medicaid itself does not guarantee quality health care. We have a much larger problem that requires a comprehensive solution so that we can increase access to quality health care and also increase the outcomes when someone goes to a quality doctor or hospital. And by increasing efficiencies, we'll bring down those costs of healthcare costs, which will in turn bring down premiums for those that have insurance. So that's been a focus that I've started on and I think I'll continue with. But rural healthcare reform is really important. Making sure that we have quality healthcare for all Virginians, regardless of their zip code, is job one for me.
Senator Bill Stanley, thank you so much for being on This Week in Richmond and talking with our viewers throughout the state.
Great to be with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'd like to welcome Senator John Cosgrove to This Week in Richmond. Appreciate your being on with us. We were talking just before we started about 7 cities that you represent, portions of them, and a couple of counties. Tell our viewers who are not from the eastern part of Virginia, that area that you represent.
Well, it's a pretty wide area, David. I start at the Atlantic Ocean at the North Carolina line in Virginia, and I come up through southern Virginia Beach. I have most of the city of Chesapeake. I have parts of Portsmouth, big hunk of Suffolk, Isle of Wight, Southampton County, and the city of Franklin.
Quite a region, quite a region. Fairly new to the Senate after a decade, a little bit more than a decade in the House of Delegates. Tell our viewers about the issues of this session, and we will remind them that we're talking here with about a week left in the session, but by the time they're seeing this, they may be seeing you back in Chesapeake.
Boy, I sure hope so, David.
Yeah, right.
This has been an incredibly intense session. I've been here this is my 14th year in the General Assembly, and I have never had a more intense session than this one. I've talked to my colleagues, and they all agree this is like a 6-week game of whack-a-mole. And it's just, we're busy from sunrise to sunset.
Well, what are some of the major issues that you've been working on that you'd like to tell our viewers about?
Well, a couple that I'm very, very proud of are some of the veterans issues that we have covered this year. Foremost, I think, above all, as we are actually establishing 2 veterans care centers, one in Northern Virginia, one in my area in Virginia Beach. And this is something we really need to do for our veterans. Everybody knows the problems that the Veterans Administration and hospitals have had. Virginia is stepping in and putting its money where its mouth is. And we say we care for veterans and love them. We do. And we're putting a lot of money in to show that we do. One of the other things that we did is we're establishing a veterans service center, not the same thing as a healthcare center, but a service center at TCC, Tidewater Community College in Chesapeake. The community college system is providing the office space and the furniture and the utilities and the broadband, and the Department of Veterans Affairs is providing the personnel and the computer systems that they need. It's centrally located for a lot of Hampton roads, and it'll help veterans go there to get help getting the benefits that they are deserving of because of their service. And finally, one of the bills that I think is really important is a bill that I carried that will establish credit at community colleges for training that veterans have had during their time in the military. When a person comes out of the military and wants to go into a new career, many times they have to go and get a degree or certification. Let's take EMS, for example, Emergency Medical System. They have to go to TCC and take classes that they probably could teach because they got that training in the military. And so TCC is going to work with the military to find out what the courses are they accreditable, and if they are, that veteran will get credit for that service. It'll save him time, money, and get him in the workforce a lot faster.
It sounds like what you're working on there, as it unfolds and develops, could be a really great model for around the Commonwealth.
I think so. I really do, and the credit for veteran service will be statewide. Certainly, the Veterans Care Centers cover both Northern Virginia and Chesapeake, as we said, or I'm sorry, Virginia Beach, as we said. And we do need to be looking throughout the Commonwealth. Virginia has one of the highest concentrations of veterans because of our proximity to the naval base in Norfolk and Fort Lee and Fort Story and Langley Air Force Base and Fort Eustis. We have a very large military contingent, not to mention all of the military that's in Northern Virginia as well.
Those care centers, you worked on those way back when you were in the House of Delegates. It's been almost 10 years in coming, so it's really good to see it coming to fruition this year.
Oh, we're really excited about it, David, yeah.
You talked about the challenges of this session. Anything that you and your colleagues can kind of put your fingers on? I mean, because any number of people have said this has been a very intense session.
It really has been. We have new faces here because of special elections that have happened. We have a lot of different bills that have come before both the House and the Senate, things dealing with ethics, which is very, very difficult legislation. We've got to make sure we get that absolutely right. There's a lot of educational issues that we've been dealing with. I serve on 4 committees and 4 subcommittees. So I don't have very much time to sit in my office. I'm usually working either that or on the Senate floor, voting on bills. We're also amending the budget this year. We're working hard to get pay raise for state employees. They haven't had a pay raise in a long time, and it is time to start bringing them back up to where they should be. Also, we're looking to do a 1.5% raise for teachers. So, this is important to compensate our employees. They have gone without raises for a long time. We've done some one-time bonuses. But I have one teacher from Chesapeake wrote me a letter saying he hasn't had a raise in 8 years. 8 years. So, we need to do a little better than what we're doing right now.
I think our viewers, some of them probably don't realize that in this short session, shorter than the other session, almost 25% shorter, still dealing with about as many bills as you do in the longer session, too.
Well, we really do. Now, the House limits each member to 15 bills on a short session, and no limit on the commending resolutions or memorial resolutions. The Senate, on the other hand, does not limit the number of bills that we can carry because Actually, we represent about 2.5 times the constituents that each House member carries. Now, like I told you, like you mentioned,
Yes,
I got
yes.
7 localities, and
Right.
every one of them wants a little something, you
Right.
know, whether it's a charter change or substantial bills. So we have a lot of work to do, but a shorter time to do it. And I'll be honest with you, bills get killed a lot faster in a short session than they do in a long session.
Yes.
There's
Yes.
not time to work on them and massage them. So basically it's, well, bring it back next year.
You know, one of the other major issues that you all have wrestled with, and there may be differences between the two chambers bills, is the issue of campus sexual assault. That's been another tough issue to grapple with.
David, it really has been. I served on the Education and Health Subcommittee where we heard those bills, and it was heart-wrenching to listen to some of the stories that some of these young ladies brought forth, and how do we deal with it, and how do we, put it away forever? Can we fix it forever? No, but we can make it pretty difficult on sexual predators, and we need to do that. I think we have some strong legislation that Senator Black has carried and Senator Norman has carried that will create a much safer environment in our areas of higher education. There can be absolutely no tolerance for sexual abuse and domestic violence at our institutions of higher learning. We cannot have it, and we won't tolerate it.
You know, and some of I've listened to some of that debate discussion, and some of the challenges has been from the university side of saying there's certain things that federal law that they can't disclose, or are concerned about people not coming forward and reporting if they know it's going to the police in the community. So it's a complex issue.
Well, we crafted those bills carefully around those issues. One of the things we did is we made sure that if a college student were to talk to a member of the clergy, they were exempted from automatic reporting. If they talked to a crisis center person, they would be exempt from automatic reporting. And if they talked to a medical person, they would be automatically exempt from reporting. The mandatory reporting is if somebody came and just told a professor, hey, I was attacked, I was violated, that professor then is required to report that to the police. Now, we're going to make sure everybody knows this, and it's going to be in the college handbooks that are passed out. And in some cases, and my heart just goes out to these folks, they don't want to report it. They're humiliated, they're ashamed, and they shouldn't be. They did nothing wrong, but still they would rather it just went away. And I don't want to violate their privacy. And so we crafted those bills so there are exceptions so that these folks can talk to people about what happened to them, yet not have automatic reporting to the police.
I'll let you know that I serve on a board of a private college in Virginia, and we're watching very carefully of what's being required of the public institutions, because Virginia has more than 20 private institutions that need, and I'm sure we'll be looking at this very seriously as well.
Absolutely, David. I actually went to Shenandoah University
Yes.
my first time through college.
Right.
And then I got my bachelor's in engineering from Old Dominion University a few years later. But the private universities need to be looking at this as well. No university setting is exempt from this type of predator.
As looking on beyond the session, you'll be back on April 15th, I believe, for the reconvene day, to consider amendments that the governor proposes, to consider any vetoes that he might make. Mm-hmm. Are you seeing, as you look on beyond this session, and hopefully by now the time that you're seeing this program and your constituents you are back in Chesapeake, and your colleagues are back in their communities, do you see some issues that you all still may be working with when you come back in the springtime?
David, I think so, especially with the budget. The governor can make amendments to the budget. Whether they're accepted or not is up to the will of the bodies. That takes a simple majority. Any other amendments to other bills takes a simple majority to either accept or reject the governor's amendments. However, with a veto, as you know, it takes 2/3 in each house to override a veto. In the House, they probably have the numbers to do that on the Republican side. We do not in the Senate side. So I think if the governor vetoes a bill, it's probably going to stay vetoed.
Constituents contact you throughout the session. Mm-hmm. Any words you'd want to say about constituents contacting you and your colleagues between the end of the regular session and the reconvene time? Is this a time that they should also be talking with you all?
Oh, absolutely, David. Yeah, first of all, they ought to be talking to us all year long.
Yes.
Okay?
Right.
And whenever I meet with folks that are Rotary meetings or I speak to women's clubs or whatever, I tell them, please don't wait until the session if you have an idea, because then it's almost too late. You need to start working on things that are important to you in July and August so that we have time to get bills drafted and do what we need to do to meet the requirements of our constituents. But I would strongly ask my constituents in the 14th Senate District, they can always call my district office at 757-547-3422. And we always return our calls from my office. My aide, Christy Craig, is fabulous, and she's very, very good at following up on that.
Senator Cosgrove, thank you so much for being on This Week in Richmond. We look forward to talking with you in the future.
Thanks, David.
Thank you.
This Week in Richmond is made possible in part by Dignity Memorial, caring for our communities with a network of funeral homes and cemeteries in Virginia and throughout North America. More information about Dignity Memorial's providers is online at dignitymemorial.com.
Alpha Natural Resources, a leader in mine safety and an environmental steward.
Haley Buick GMC in Richmond and online at haleybuickgmc.com. Intelligent Illuminations, helping you manage, monitor, and control your street lights. The Virginia Chamber of Commerce, the voice of the Virginia business community.
The Virginia Education Association, because a good education is good for everybody.
Additional support is provided by these sponsors. And by the members of Virginia's public television stations. Thank you.